Hey everyone, it is Danny and welcome to this update video on what is happening across the tropics. And so in this video we will be focusing on the Caribbean and specifically the southeastern Caribbean, which includes areas such as Trinidad and Tobago, which have been enduring a lot of flooding recently. And so before I go into details, please do subscribe if you haven't and tap the notification bell so that you never miss an important update. Alright, and so let's get straight into it. And looking at this satellite imagery here of the Caribbean, we can see that you see some areas that are experiencing maybe a lot of heavy rainfall right now, which would include some parts of the South Caribbean and also over to Guatemala as that area of convection shifts into the Eastern Pacific. But as for the rest of the region, we're not seeing too much happening. But let's zoom into the vicinity of Trinidad and Tobago. And so here we are looking at a closer view of the area, and we can see that there is still a lot of shower activity that is taking place in the area. And so I've been seeing the videos and pictures of what is happening there recently, and it is absolutely devastating in terms of all of that flooding as well as the landslides that have been taking place there. And so even though more rainfall is expected through today and tomorrow headed to Wednesday, there are some improvements that are up ahead, and so I'll be taking you guys through what is expected as we're going to be progressing throughout this week. But as of right now, nothing too major is happening. However, there is always a good chance of that buildup of a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity as we head throughout today, and that is what is expected. So let's go ahead and now take a look at the various rainfall totals that are expected. And so we're taking a look at the total accumulated precipitation. So this is not all expected in just one day, but rather between now and Wednesday for the GFS model. And so as we head more towards the blues and the shades of purple, that is when more and more rainfall is expected, possibly over 2 or 3 inches of rainfall in some areas. And so we're seeing here that between now and Wednesday, the areas expected to receive the most rainfall in the vicinity of the Caribbean is the South Caribbean, as well as the vicinity of the ABC Islands and also Trinidad and Tobago and Northern South America, of course. And again, this is between now and Wednesday. So more than 2 inches of additional rainfall possible across some areas. And then as we go on to the Euro model, we're seeing that Euro is showing something pretty much similar to what the GFS is expecting, where it is going to be the South Caribbean areas such as Nicaragua, as well as Costa Rica, Panama, Northern South America, and Trinidad and Tobago, and the ABC Islands, which are going to be receiving the most rainfall as we head through to Wednesday. And then as for the icon model, similar story yet again. So we have this consistency among the models that, hey, these are going to be the areas that are going to be experiencing quite a bit of rainfall as we are going to be heading through to Wednesday. However, there are improvements on the horizon, as I said earlier. So let's go ahead and now take a look at the simulated infrared satellite. So this is what the satellite could look like. It doesn't mean that it will look like this, but this is what the GFS model is expecting as we're going to be progressing through the end of this week. And so we're seeing here that a gradual decrease in all the rainfall in the vicinity of Trinidad and Tobago, and the Caribbean overall is expected as we're going to be progressing near the end of this week. And there is actually a lot of dry air across some areas right now, and that is really helping to suppress rainfall activity. So that would be such a well-needed break, especially for Trinidad, because again, the island has been facing a lot of rainfall recently, a lot of heavy rainfall, a lot of inundation. And so looking at this map here, this satellite loop here, we see that we have these different colors, and the yellows and oranges, they indicate dry air. Meanwhile, those whites and those greens that we see, that is where we have all that shower and thunderstorm activity. And so we can see that for majority of the Caribbean, there is quite a bit of dry air that is extensive across the area, and so that is why we're not not seeing too much on satellite for these other areas, inclusive of Cuba, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Hispaniola, most of the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands. So we're not seeing too much on infrared satellites happening here. Maybe just some passing clouds or a pop-up shower, but nothing too significant because of all of that dry air. However, for some areas where the dry air isn't as abundant, such as the South Caribbean, that is where we're seeing some of the activity. And even outside the Caribbean, we're not seeing too much dry air within these areas, and that is why there is so much activity, because showers and thunderstorms, they depend on instability in order to thrive. And so again, guys, if you're in Trinidad and Tobago, just hang in there, just around 2 days or so of additional rainfall before there is likely to be some improvements. And so aside from all of that activity and a few fronts that are out there, cold fronts that is, there is nothing too significant happening across the rest of the tropics right now. And in terms of tropical cyclone activity, it doesn't seem as though we're going to be seeing anything as we're going to be heading into the rest of this year. And the hurricane season officially ends in just 2 days. So today is the 28th of November and the season officially ends on the 30th. So the final day of November is also the final day for that official period of the Atlantic hurricane season. And so tropical cyclones is not something to worry about at this time of year, and won't be, or isn't likely to be, I should say, as we're going to be progressing into the next several months, because the possibility of off-season storms is there. It's just very small but not negligible. And so once the hurricane season has concluded, then the totals will be 40 named storms, 8 hurricanes, and 2 major hurricanes. And that is what was not really expected by a majority of different sources in terms of their predictions for the hurricane season, because many sources were expecting at least over, say, 16 named storms. But due to the plethora of dry air and upper level winds through July and August, that is the reason we didn't see too much activity happening in those months. But things ramped up as we entered September as well as October, and now as we progress to the end of the hurricane season, it isn't likely that we're going to be seeing another storm. So it's likely that this season is going to be concluded with the name Nicole. And so guys, that is really what's been happening across the tropics. That's what's been happening across Trinidad and Tobago. A lot of rainfall, a lot of flooding, a lot of landslides. And so please take all the necessary precautions and stay safe, guys, if you're being affected by all this rainfall. And this goes back to what I always say in terms of tropical cyclones not really being necessary for us to see some major rainfall events. So this isn't likely to be the last of it for good, maybe this year, but of course I'm going to be keeping you guys updated once it is necessary. But again, for now, just stay safe and do not take any unnecessary risks. Don't attempt to cross through flooded roadways or do anything else which might put your life in jeopardy. And so that is really it for right now. And so if you have any questions, you can leave them down in the comments, and you can also share your thoughts there. And of course, remember to always be weatherwise.